Hi, welcome to the Linux channel. See, for more than a decade, I was into product development and product architecture and stuff like that. Let it be for my own firm or various consulting projects which I have undertaken, or even the current endeavor. Okay, so I've done extensively product development and product architecture, from scratch. Okay, and as I'm from networking or datacom background, most of these devices are network appliances. Let it be security or things like that, or any my own traffic squeezer or the toffee kind of WAN optimization devices. See, one of the important aspect when you do any product development is a way to store your data, or the configuration or the appliance configuration and the metadata. So this metadata can be vendor specific, or it can be any application specific, and it can be just a combination of both, combination of any application metadata. Say for instance, you have any security appliance, and it has some or any IDS, IPS or firewall or stuff like that. It may have some blacklisted IPs or domains and stuff like that. So how do you store them, where do you store them, and how do you retrieve them is going to be quite significant. And this video is exactly for any aspiring students or guys who are in the industry, who are who want to do a product development and want to kind of address this challenge, especially these embedded devices or appliances or any hardware devices like this. So as a part of that, long back, I used to do via the regular Linux provided etc configuration files. You can have your configuration. Let's imagine you are architecting your product, and there are two aspects to that. One is you use existing open source solutions, like for instance we are using Apache as one of the dependency for product. Okay, it may have a web interface and we may use an Apache web server using existing open source technologies. So they may have a configuration files in etc, and their binaries will use this as a dependency. So you need to edit this text files, and then you get this these applications working for you. So other than that, you can architect your own solution for your own product. And again, here is where you have a choice to select. You can do the same way, and you can do something like you can have your configuration files in etc folder, and some of these configuration files are quite straightforward. They are going to be represented in a simple TLV format. There will be some variable name and value and stuff like that, and some are quite complicated, like it may be in YAML format. So I found this Ubuntu server, the network configuration is in the YAML format. It is not in a simple TLV format. So let me just quickly show you what I am talking about. See, you go here, let me increase this font size. See, you can go to etc Apache, and you can see there Apache 2 config, and you can see there this is in this format. It looks like XML sort of, okay, and instead of cat we just open this file. See, you can see there it is like XML like format. Okay, and let's imagine, yeah, and other than that you can see there this keep alive on time, the timeout. So there is a name variable, okay, type length value. So there is a type and value. So it is like TLV or stuff like that. So you can see that there's a name, variable name, and its value. So it is same as TLV, type length value. The length is going to make sense if you are sending it via some network packets, or you are storing it in some file without this delimiter which is equal which is a space. But you can't do that when you sometimes design any protocol so it may be TLV based. Okay, hence you can see that. So this is one way to keep. The big nightmare is when you open this in your application, and when you parse this, you need third party parsers. And same way, as I said, when it comes to network config, let me fire some Ubuntu server desktop. Yeah, let me fire some Ubuntu server and let me show you what I meant. Okay, so here if you see, there is a unique thing you will notice is in Ubuntu server, the network configuration is stored in YAML format versus it's little different in Ubuntu desktop. Okay, yeah, so it is booted. So you can see there, if I go to etc net plan, and this is where the network configuration will be stored. So cat 01, and you can see there it is stored in YAML format. Okay, you can see there. Okay, so it is stored in YAML format. CD network. Yeah, this is not going to have, so CD net plan, since it is just I'm sorry, actually this is not even Ubuntu server, so let me just shut it down. Not this one, let me fire some other VM. It's not this server, let me open some other server, something like this here. This is a proper Ubuntu server, that is actually an LXT Lubuntu or something like that. Okay, so anyway, so that's the desktop variants doesn't have this configuration stored in that path. Okay, that includes my host Linux as well. So here if I check CD network, so somewhere here it gets stored, it is not there. Somewhere else it gets stored. Time to time, always be seen these things getting changed. When I started with Fedora, it was a different way how it stores this network configuration versus this present desktop Ubuntu. Okay, and by the way, I use the host OS as Ubuntu OS, so this is an XFC Ubuntu desktop versus the one which you seen in the VM is actually a Lubuntu, because it is very lightweight and it is quite fast. Okay, so once it boots, I can show you. Meanwhile, I can show another example. Say for instance, if you consider this FreeBSD, in the case of FreeBSD, this is not Linux at all, although it is Unix based, it is not Linux at all. So most of the things whatever you do in Linux, you can do with FreeBSD, because it is again Unix based and Linux is a Unix clone. Okay, so same thing you will find in FreeBSD. In FreeBSD, there are some system settings are stored in configuration files, and these configuration files again has this TLV format. Okay, so this will be in TLV format. Again, like I said, see one thing, it is it's not about TLV or this thing. See, sometimes when you represent this, you can also put it in a sort of CSV format. It is comma separated values, so it can be some sort of a CSV value, CSV format, and in this case again this is a TLV format, and you can see in this case it is a very simple strict TLV format. So what I meant is, say for instance, go to etc, you have this conf files, cat rc.conf and cat rc.firewall and things like that. If you check this rc.conf, you can see there it has this variable value, okay, variable name and its value. So you can do a cat, and then you can do one option is you can do this grep, and you can do this Apache, and you can actually further do cut and all those commands and then extract its value. But there is other way which natively FreeBSD provides is sysrc command. You can also do this sysrc, and you can do you can provide the variable name, and you can provide this Apache 24 enable, and it gives that value here. you can see there. And of course this you can do a cut minus f, and you can tell this colon as a delimiter, and yeah, minus d and minus f. We can select the second field, which is this s, and we can further do that to remove that extra space and stuff. Okay, so anyway, as you can see here, this is one easy way to get this variable is this way, and you can even set these variables, and you can also define user defined variables as well. I think so. I have worked on FreeBSD but not extensively and not recently, hence I am kind of out of touch. So if you do vim rc.conf, I can put across a variable here, say kiran equal to double quotes 22. So this is like a vendor defined or user defined variable, so it can have also other details. If you are architecting a product, you can actually put across your vendor defined variables. You can put some serial number, some license and other stuff. So you can see there. So we have done that. So I can also hopefully do this kiran, and you can see there it works fine. Okay, even I can set this variable equal to say something like 24, and you can see there it is setting that variable to this. And this is an elegant way to use this text files as a configuration files to store your device config as well as your any extra metadata. Okay, so you can see there. So this way you can manage without any complicated library dependencies and complicated scripts. But often the problem with this sort of saving the configuration in the text is you have this limitations which you need to deal. Okay, before going to that, we can revisit this Ubuntu server. You can see there it has booted up. User, yeah, you can see there it is booted up, and now what we can do is we can go to this etc netplan, and we can do a chat of this, and you can see that this is in this YAML format. Hope you noticed this is not been defined in Ubuntu because it's kept as a placeholder, but Ubuntu doesn't use this interface. Okay, so you can see that, and you can get this in YAML format, which you can parse it and extract the variables with various tools, and I have done with PHP. Similarly you can do with Python, C, C++ and stuff like that. Okay, in the case of C, you need to install any third party libraries so that you can get this in that way, but it is quite easy in PHP. This is in OpenWRT VM. So OpenWRT, as I say, it is a very popular router operating system. So you get any routers in the market, chances are it may be running OpenWRT within the same, and the company puts the vendor you buy, they may put a lot of other stuff, and they may put their own custom UI and stuff, and then they make a ready to use network router. Okay, so OpenWRT is very popular. It is a very compact embedded Linux operating system, and its footprint is too small. It's just a very minimal disk footprint, so you can even do this df-h and even the memory utilization and stuff. So let's not go deeper, and we can just focus about this aspect of configuration files. Okay, so we can go to this etc config, and if you see here, there are various files, depends on the context, and all the configuration is stored in this specific format. And OpenWRT, it is called as UC, and its UI, hence it is UCI based, UCI or UC we can call it, and since it is UCI based, the UI is called as Lucy of OpenWRT, the standard UI OpenWRT gets. Okay, so that's what it is. So hope you can see here we have these variables. So we can explore one example here, say vim system. You can see their host name and stuff, it is stored over here, and suppose we need to retrieve this system host name. Okay, and also we need to save a different host name. So what we can do is we can do UCI get system dot host name, because the file name is system, and we can do this. Okay, and you should able to do Since you can see here, since there is this config system, we have to provide the system one more time here. Okay, so system dot hostname UCI get ls. Let's just check the file name. So it is system hostname. Otherwise you can do this system UCI get system UCI show system, and you can see there all the variables are shown, and some of these are like array type. So if it is array type, you can't use that notation, hence it is not working. So what we need to do is system dot system of 0, something like this, and we need to provide this hostname, or this, in this case, system at system at system. Yeah, as you see here, now it works fine, because this is like a multi-dimensional variable, and this way you can retrieve. And if you want to change the host name, you can also change it to say Kiran, and it will be set. You need to use this set command or set option. It will be set, and to make these changes saved on the disk. Okay, if you do this, it will be stored only in the RAM. Okay, it won't be saved in the disk. This works exactly like a Cisco router. Okay, what happens is, whenever you do this, it will be stored in running config. People who are well versed with Cisco devices are aware of this. Cisco has two modes. One is the saved config and one is the running config. Running config loads this onto the RAM. Whenever you do any changes, it only changes the RAM, which is the running config, but it won't be set or synced onto the disk actually. So we can do that. Get host name. You can see it is Kiran, but it won't be the case in the file, which means if you do this vim system, it will be still OpenWRT. So what you are supposed to do is, you need to do UCI update system, then it will be one second, just UCI commit system, it's not update. And if you do this vim system, you should able to see that change here. You can see there the variable has been set. See, the order doesn't matter, it can happen in any order, hence whichever is set, the order changes. Okay, so order is not an issue. So this is what happens in OpenWRT, and the fun part about OpenWRT is you can actually define vendor specific or user specific files as well, config files. So let's imagine I open a file called system and say config, I can type, say, let me take a template or example. So cat network, config, I can provide some option, say config, say vendor, and here I can type option, say username, and mention here as Sam, something like this. UCI commit this file, UCI Kiran, UCI get Kiran.vendor, and you can see there UCI get Kiran.vendor, UCI commit Kiran, UCI get UCI show Kiran, and it will show that. And here it is defined like multi-dimensional. Without that also we can do. I'm just forgot what is the option we are supposed to use. Okay, so in this way again you need to access this way. So UCI at vendor of 0 dot username, it comes here, and this one you can change it to anything. Joe set, UCI set, and same way you can do UCI commit and UCI get, and it comes, and cat Kiran, and you can see there it has been changed. So this is what you can do with respect to OpenWRT when it comes to storing and retrieving any configuration if you want. So over the top you can use any APIs, libraries, and through the libraries you can use any APIs to access these variables. It is quite easy, as you can see here, and in my case I have written my own PHP APIs to get these values and set these values upon any changes in the UI and stuff. So this is one way. So there is other way which you can do, which is much sophisticated, is instead of doing all this, although it is an embedded device, sometimes you can store all your metadata and as well as configuration in entirely in a database itself. So there are multiple choices are there. If you use something like OpenWRT, try using a database engine called Sqlite. You can find here Sqlite3. So this is the one. Okay, try to choose something like this. In fact, this is sometime I have used for one of the vendors in the past when I was one of the clients in the past when I was working as a consultant. The advantage of Sqlite, as the name says, it is a very light DBMS engine. You may not get extensive options like MySQL, but it is good enough to deal something like this. And the good part is you can have access to most SQL commands, and you can get any type of views and stuff, especially if there are so many rows of any configuration is involved. That includes any interface statistics, interface logs, or any sort of logs, or it can be something. Okay, so if you have something very extensive thing to be managed, you can use a database itself. And since anyway you are using database, you can store these variables in a database itself, especially when it comes to ignore this system defined variables which comes with the OpenWRT framework. See, what I meant is, say for example, cat firewall, all the firewall settings are stored here. Okay, all the network settings are stored here, and stuff like that. So this is predefined, and most applications, as you install in OpenWRT, may use a framework like this. Again, it depends on the application. But other than that, if you are architecting something beyond this, you can have an option. You can even use something like Sqlite, and you can push your configuration in the Sqlite itself, along with your your appliance or device logs and various other aspects. So that is one option, and Sqlite is very much used in tandem with OpenWRT. And although MySQL is very rare because MySQL is too heavy and it bloats like anything. So Sqlite, one more advantage is Sqlite you can define a unfortunately I can't show the demo because it is quite extensive sequence of steps are required. So if it is connected to internet, it is not connected, I need to turn on some router and stuff. So it is not connected. If it is connected, you can just do opkg install Sqlite3, something like that, or you can install via Lucy UI as well. Okay, something like that. You can install this Sqlite. And if you are quite new to OpenWRT, I recommend you to watch my last video. I have taken a 3-part video, and you can watch how you can install a custom apps or packages in OpenWRT just the way you do for Ubuntu system. So you can do something like that, and then the advantage of Sqlite is you get the database in a single file, and there is no need to export import as the way you deal with MySQL. It will be just all packed in single file, and in case you want to copy this in somewhere else, just you can define this file, you can define this file path, and you can run any queries with the context of which file and the query. Okay, you don't need to deal any complicated mess like what you do with traditionally with MySQL. I mean to say, the user password and the database, and then your query comes. So you don't need to deal anything like that. Okay, so that's the advantage you get. So last but not least, if you are having a much extensive system like Ubuntu server or something, I recommend you to store your metadata via some a proper database engine like MySQL itself. Of course, you have other options, Postgres or even NoSQL or MongoDB or even this thing, what is that, Oracle and stuff. But I prefer MySQL. So you can use MySQL as well, and you can define all your system variables, and I have done this extensively in Toffee projects. Okay, the advantage with MySQL is you can access in C, Python, PHP or any framework, and you can do extensive queries. You can do extensive, you can get extensive views which are not limited like what you find in Sqlite3, because Sqlite, as the name says, it is a very, very lightweight database DBMS engine, which is especially meant for all these embedded products. So if you are an embedded developer, you should have a look, although you are not a database guy. Okay, this is one problem in the industry I often find, is people who are into system, they just miss the bigger picture. They never venture into any sort of UI framework and stuff, which will actually help them down the lane, especially if you are consulting as well. Okay, so if you are a freelancer, you need to check out these options. If you are working in a company, your role is always going to be the same. But having said, as you progress in your career, in case if you are ambitious becoming any product designer, developer or product architect and stuff, you need to have top to bottom approach. You should not restrict yourself with a specific skill set. Okay, so this is one thing. If you are already in the industry having around a decade of experience, just go below more fundamentals of system aspects, learn some kernel aspects and stuff. Learn some kernel aspects if you are not into that. Okay, although you are a system software developer or you are into some embedded development, learn as well the OS and kernel aspects. And same way, you can also go a bit above, okay, and go through this user space components, the UI framework and stuff. You can just have a casual look, and this gives an idea how you can develop a product up completely. Okay, not relying on other people or other skill sets. Of course, generally you can hire them and you can get these things done, but you don't need to get your feet wet. What I meant is, you don't need to get your feet wet, but you'll get an overall clear picture that this is the architecture I use, this is what the components and I use, and I will selectively hire people or the talent and get this work done. So you should have at least this know-how. Otherwise, you are very, it will be a challenging career ahead as you want to get into this product development or product architecture stuff. So if you want to step above, then explore these things and try to address various such aspects, because it's just not always the skill set you are comfortable, you are going to work forever. Okay, so you are going to do an entire product, not some project. Okay, so just you need to change this mindset and things like that. So I hope this video summarizes of various options. If you ask me, I like above all these options, I just like the user interface which OpenWRT provides when it comes to OpenWRT devices. But when it comes to any other Linux flavors, let it be Ubuntu server or anything else, I just like to stick with SQL approach, and this is the reason I use SQL to store anything for my Toffee projects as well, so that it can be stored in a proper way. It can be a small system configuration, something like this. It can be just a port configuration, or it can be some firewall configuration or a WAN opt configuration, or it can be an extensive firewall logs which you get it from the system, and you can later monitor them, and you can write any engines on top of it, AA or IDS IPS, and you can further analyze them. And having it in the SQL gives you the opportunity to get any custom views as you wish, and this makes it far more easier than you stick with any such text files where you need to depend again on third party libraries. Of course, you need a library to even open the database tables and get the queries executed. I'm not denying that, but what is the advantage you get is you are talking with a language which is very mature. SQL is very easy to use, very mature, and it is extensively good as you think about long term sustenance and maintenance of your project actually. And you don't need to do this by yourself. Even that library is standard one, you can just install. If it is a C, there is a library for MySQL support in C code. You can install that, and then you can just run the query and get the output, and you can parse it row by row and stuff like that. Same thing with the PHP, same thing with other frameworks as well. So you can choose your best option to store your metadata. And if you are architecting a product, if you get into this dilemma, you can be in touch with me. And if you are restricted with some limitation in the hardware configuration, like in the case of OpenWRT, I recommend, in fact, rather than using your SQLite, you can use the UCI interface itself. But if you are using SQLite, it is also fine, because that will actually allow you to store any logs out of your system. It can be any security logs or anything. If you get extensive of that, then you can use. Chances are you can also use this RRD interface. I have used RRD for my toffee, so even you can use something like an RRD. You can see here RRDtool. Yeah, this is what RRDtool, and you can get graphs like this via RRDtool. So it's a round robin this thing. D stands for, I forgot what it is actually. RRD, it's just it does this log rotate. So as you capture your logs, you can view them in week wise, day wise, and hour wise, or even month wise and stuff. It does automatically this log rotate and manages them. So I use RRD extensively for my toffee, especially for my network stats, because all these aspects it does already for us. So hope this video has given some deep insights. So if you want to scale up your career, and especially you're already into product development, but you want to scale up as product architect, especially doing an end-to-end product, okay, covering all aspects. Of course, these things may be done by you, or it will be, you may have a team who can be capable, or you may be thinking about hiring new talent and stuff like that. But you can explore all these options, and you can pick the best which it suits you. And if you are a beginner in the career, then at least this video should give some insight, so that if you have to deal with anything like this, you can choose your best framework, experiment with different frameworks. So what I recommend always is, if you are not forced by your manager or higher ups, you have the full freedom. Although you are a beginner, I have given such options for my subordinates or my colleagues. Always, as a senior person, I always give that they can also choose any framework of their choice, and if it is good enough, of course we can adapt. So if that is the thing, then you can pick all these options, try all these options, and you can pick the best one which you like. So if there is no pressure from your manager or your TLs or anybody, then you can feel free to go with the framework which you are already in love with, and you are very much aware of. Okay, you can pick that framework. Or otherwise, if they are insisting you, no, we have to use this interface YAML itself, and we always use YAML as a standard SOP in our organization. So if it is something a standard practice, then just try to learn if you are not aware, and then try to use that. Or if they give some options, you have option A, option B, or option C, choose the best. Okay, choose in between these three options, then just pick that and you can use it. So hope this is useful. If you have anything to discuss on this regard, be in touch via mail, or you can post your small queries in YouTube comments as well. Sometimes I do get queries in WhatsApp or LinkedIn as well. So thanks a lot for joining me. Stay tuned. Have a nice day. Bye bye.